In preparation for this review, I decided to play a little bit of Fallout New Vegas in order to get an understanding on Obsidian's talent as an FPS RPG maker. Unfortunately, I couldn't get past 30 minutes of this dreary-looking video game. Through this short-lived experience, however, I learned something. Playing Fallout New Vegas first to get some insight was a mistake, not because of the already outdated graphics and gameplay design, but because The Outer Worlds is familiar to its New Vegas roots, but just different enough to stand on its own. The Outer Worlds is a science fiction, role-playing first-person shooter game developed by Obsidian Entertainment. On the surface, this game doesn't have that many original ideas. There have been many other games like this before. The way you recruit and level up your companions and player character is reminiscent of the Mass Effect series. The interactions, dialogue, and overall gameplay is inspired by other films and games such as Guardians of the Galaxy and the Fallout series. In fact, Obsidian Entertainment was formed by two of the original developers behind the Fallout series, who are the directors of this game. It's a combination of ideas and mechanics that were done in the past. So why is this idea considered new again? Well, everything starts to make sense with context. Over the past 5 years, the video game market was oversaturated with online-only experiences and minimal to non-existent effort. This is on top of the excessive monetization that could be comparable to extortion in some cases. The point I'm making is modern AAA game publishers are more focused on profit than making a functional product. Even the Fallout series, one of the most beloved RPG series of all time, fell victim to all of this. Long story short, Bethesda made an inferior product and within a year made things worse. I could go into detail, but it's not the focus of this video. This information is necessary to understand why The Outer Worlds became a beacon of light for RPGs of this style. As a first-person shooter, it's as standard as they come. If you ever played any first-person shooter in the past 10 years, then the controls will feel familiar. What makes this unique, however, is that RPGs typically make gameplay elements a secondary concern over the role-playing aspects. For certain first-person RPGs, there are workarounds to this limitation. In Bethesda's Fallout games, the shooting mechanics are accompanied with a system where time stands still, and the players can choose a specific body part to attack. The Outer Worlds has a similar time manipulation mechanic, but it's not used as a crutch. It's treated as an optional feature because the shooting mechanics are robust. Sometimes I keep forgetting the mechanic exists, because I was never in a situation where I absolutely needed it. I don't really have anything super negative to say about the combat. It's solid all around. As players level up, they can allocate points to a stat sheet where it affects their combat capabilities, dialogue choices, and other abilities such as lockpicking and hacking. There is a slight problem that I have with this system. Allocating points doesn't matter much when there are wearables that can drastically influence the amount. This includes team composition. If I have Vicar Max in my party, my hacking skills are raised an extra 10 points. If I let a character like Pavardi wear a pair of goggles that raises engineering skills, that benefit goes to me on top of the 10 points she provides if I have her in my party. It's a flexible system, but it throws the idea of role-playing out the window with these advantages. Outside of companions, the characters of the Outer Worlds aren't too interesting, save for a few exceptions. Most of them only exist to give missions and provide world-building elements, which isn't a terrible thing. Admittedly, I like it. I'm not sure if it's because it's a new IP or if the world itself is intriguing, but I love how much information about the world is there when conversing with other characters. For those that personally know me, I love to listen more than talking. I loved learning about the planet and its inhabitants, whether it's from NPCs or based on your companion's knowledge.
Edgewater is the sparkling county seat of Emerald Vale, or it was when first built. Since then, neglect and time have worn away her shiny veneer. The town is near the coordinates where Captain Hawthorne died. It would not be unfortunate if something, like say a plague, were to wipe Emerald Vale from the face of the planet.
Speaking of which, your companions are distinct from one another. Pavarti is the timid mechanic, Vicar Max is the righteous hacker, and then there's my favorite, Sam, the cleaning robot turned killing machine.
Issuing sanitation ticket. Error! Refill printer paper. Thank you, customer. This area is utterly filthy. Did you know SAM units are capable of equipping regulation-grade flamethrower nozzles? Upgrade your attachment today and get to firing away.
In typical role-playing game fashion, the player can choose what to say depending on the situation. The actions and dialogue choices the player makes will impact the overall narrative. For example, the first area of the game contains two factions. The first faction is a small company town of Edgewater, where its citizens work tirelessly canning food. The second faction is a group of deserters who ran from Edgewater in order to gain their freedom. At one point, the player will have to make the choice of rerouting the power supply between the corporate town of Edgewater or the group of deserters in order to gain an important component to your ship. The story won't progress unless the player makes this choice. At first, the choice becomes clear, but one of your party members, Pavarti, makes a comment about both factions that question the player's morals.
I don't think you should cut off Edgewater's power. I think it would be cruel. I'm sorry. That just sort of came out all at once. Edgewater's hurting. We've been losing workers year after year, and corporate hardly ever sends replacements. There's barely enough Saltuna to fill our bellies anymore. But the town's got some good people in it. Decent, hard-working folk just living their lives the only way they know how. They don't deserve to be punished. Miss McDevitt's built something beautiful. Somehow, she's talked the ground into giving life again. It's plain to see she's made the Vale a better place. Fed the hungry, tended the sick. Gave a home to those that had none. But Miss McDevitt delights in Edgewater's suffering. She wants to hurt the town. Do you really want to be party to that kind of hatred?
Regardless of the decision, there will be consequences. It's the first time in a while that a video game tells me that there are no such things as good or bad decisions. In any film, the director frames a conversation in a specific way to make the audience feel what the director wants them to feel. Video games are no different. When the player converses with another character, the background is blurred, bringing the subject to focus. I'm on a camp where no angle is ever shot unintentionally. This was highlighted when I made a specific choice that resulted in a character feel resentment towards me. A light shines upon this character as flashes of red appears on one side of her face and a spotlight on another. When I talk to her under these circumstances, compared to when I first met her, the feeling of regret and discomfort take over in ways I haven't felt before in a video game.
That's the thing about growing old. Your eyes start to fail. Elsewise, I would have seen you for the snake that you are, chopped you into pieces and roasted you on a spit. This is all you're doing. Cutting off my power, killing off my garden. Without refrigeration, my food will spoil, and my flock will starve. Go talk to Grace and Thomas. Look them in the eye and tell them their life here is over, and the only thing left to do is go back to Edgewater. This is now your responsibility. And you tell Reed Thompson that I will never return to Edgewater. I would rather die among my flowers than live under his management.
While writing this review, I came across several comments about the game before release. Comments such as, "This looks like a poor man's version of Fallout," and "It looks like a mediocre AA game." If their definition of mediocre AA titles equals The Outer Worlds, then yes, please, more of this. I would rather have more AA games of this quality rather than the massive amount of mediocre AAA games released in the past few years. You know the ones I'm talking about. It might not be an original idea, but in a sea of broken, unpolished, and greedy video games this year, The Outer Worlds stands out from the crowd for being a complete and satisfying product. Sure, there might be a few things that would change, but the positives far outweigh nearly any negatives I had with this game. and I wouldn't want it any other way. But what do you think? Have you enjoyed playing The Outer Worlds? Leave your response in the comment section below. If you like this review, leave a like and consider subscribing for more content. Until then, this has been Opez Gaming, signing out.